said, reaching across the desk and keying for the next file. "This is the company's profit data for the past 2 years. You can see there are regular dips and surges over that time period."
"Galactic market fluctuations,"
Ranking said, nodding.
"Happens in every industry. Your point?"
"You can see a pattern," Orinda said. "Dips here, here, and here. If there was embezzlement, it would probably have been timed to hit just the right spot to maybe not get noticed."
"You say if there was embezzlement,"
Ranking said.
"I was under the impression that Governor Azadi's office had confirmed there were funds missing."
"So I've heard,"
Orinda said, bracing herself as she again tapped the datapad. Now came the tricky part. "But it may not be as simple as missing funds. Here's a security video from a party at the company 2 weeks ago, right in the middle of the latest financial dip." She pointed to a broad-faced being with fuzzy jowls and wide-set eyes dressed in a dark brown tunic. "You see the Lutrillian here at the side?"
"Yes."
"That's Pomey Harchmack," Orinda said. "She handles the heavy equipment inventory operations. Her account is separate from the main operating fund account. Now, there. See how she slips out of the room right at the height of the party?"
"Yes,"
Ranking said.
"Where does that hallway lead?"
"To the central office cluster," Orinda said. "Her desk is in there, from which she can access the entire inventory system. Oh, and a fresh order of digging heads had just come in, with the funds slated to go out the next morning. A perfect time for her to act."
"Also a perfect time for a drinking party-goer to go to the restroom," Ranking pointed out. "What makes you think that's not what she's doing?"
"Because she leaves 3 more times in the next 2 hours and is gone at least 10 minutes each time," Orinda said.
"What does that have to do with anything?"
"Because that's how financial transactions work here," Orinda said. "I don't know how it is on Coruscant, but on Lothal, secure fund shifting usually requires 2 or 3 touch points, and the authorization codes sometimes bounce back and forth over an hour or more." Ranking grunted.
"Pretty inefficient."
"Extremely inefficient," Orinda agreed sourly. It was yet another part of Lothal's quaint approach to life that she found infuriating. "But we're stuck with it. The banks and supply houses all have their own ways of doing things, and none of them like turning everything over to computers or droids. Everyone wants to have a personal touch in big transactions."
"Yes, that does sound like Lothal,"
Ranking conceded. He poised a finger over the datapad.
"May I?"
"Certainly." He tapped the datapad to fast-forward the recording. As far as Orinda could tell, he had no suspicions that what she told him was anything but the truth. And it was, really. Except that Orinda remembered her mother mentioning earlier that day how Pomey Harchmack had been having digestive problems, which meant all those disappearances almost certainly were to the restroom. Maybe Harchmack was innocent. Maybe there were no missing funds, and Uvis was simply making a bald-faced play for control. Or maybe the stomach thing had been a deception and excuse, and Harchmack was genuinely guilty. Orinda didn't know. She also didn't care. All she cared about was drawing enough suspicion off her mother to persuade Ranking to intervene. Once he did, Harchmack's guilt or innocence was her own problem.
"May I make a copy of all this?"
Ranking asked. "Actually, I already made you one," Orinda said, pulling a data card from her pocket and placing it on the desk. He smiled wryly as he picked it up.
"Rather sure of ourselves, are we?"
"Just the opposite,"